Part of growing up, of learning, of connecting to the people around you, lies in the stories that are told. Stories are all around us, from the traditions, the family history, music, books, newspaper articles, theater performances, and everywhere else in every corner imaginable. I've always been interested in writing. There was always something incredibly fascinating to me about how authors would tell their stories. Each one had their own style, their own little quirks, and I fell in love with each book in a different way. I was always thinking to myself, what if I did this? What if I wrote something that touched someone else in the way that I feel touched right now? That feeling was big. I have badly wanted to create something of my own and share it with someone, anyone. But to do that in my future, I needed to understand myself as a writer. My journey with this project led me to what I was searching for. I wrote and wrote and kept writing, and then I edited and kept editing, and finally I was happy with what I had. It was a lot of work, but in the words of Ridley Pearson, it's fun work. I found myself struggling with writer's block the first weekend, which was discouraging. I was struggling a lot, but because of some advice Ridley gave me way back when I first met with him in February, I was able to push forward and create something really great. He told me that to be a writer is to be a reader. Stephen King, in his book On Writing, said that you cannot hope to sweep someone else away by the force of your writing until it has been done to you. You can't write well if you can't read. So I picked up a book my second week and off I went. Then I picked up a second on the third week, and another one after that, and it became a cycle of writing and reading and inspiring. Before my writing process began, I was searching for ways that writers ignite meaning in the reader. I was looking at ways that the author can connect to the reader in a personal way, how writing is important not only to the writers, but to the readers as well. During my research phase, I created a thesis, making the argument that writers use description, emotion, and personal observation to create a shared experience by reflecting on their identity as authors and connecting to the reader to their own sense of place. It was the process of using different techniques within the writing that would create a shared experience with author and reader and connecting them to human ecology through the natural environment. Writing is meaningful to me, so I wanted to try and write something that would be meaningful to the reader. Reflecting on the year, my last year of high school, I started thinking about my future, about leaving Idaho, about my time spent at the Sage School, and my idea came to me quicker than I thought possible. While reflecting on the Sage School mission, I wanted to take my character on a journey of finding their own home, their own sense of place, just as I found mine through the past 7 years here. I wanted it to take place here in Idaho so that I could really put my all into using description, emotion, and personal observation in my story to create a shared experience and to work along my thesis. The mountains bent and curved unnaturally. It was a cement roller coaster through the trees and the stubborn snow that never melted. Early May was warm in Idaho, the sky clear and powder blue, cotton clouds floating loosely. Jane thought it had the possibility to be a smooth, easy drive, but Seamus would not shut his mouth. The car was close to boiling, even though the air conditioner was blasting on high. Jane blamed Harriet for having a cheap car with windows that didn't roll down. Also, it was Seamus's fault for having the heat tolerance of a penguin in the jungle. Jane loved a good road trip, the kind with music that was definitely too loud, and something akin to screamo happening in the back seat to lyrics that didn't make much sense, but she really could have gone for a pair of headphones right then. We're literally in an overeating oven right now. How do you call this humane? Seamus yelled from the back seat as he jiggled the door handle violently. I thought you were taking us on a road trip, Harriet, not conducting an evil scheme to have us barbecued. Harriet rolled her eyes and continued down the road without a sound. You know, Jane said, you could have worn shorts. You know perfectly well that shorts on my legs make me look like a walking potato sack. Well, if you put comfort over fashion, maybe we wouldn't be having this discussion right now. Well, if Harriet had a car with working windows, I wouldn't be on the verge of death. If I had a car with working windows, I would throw you out of one, Harriet said. Jane snickered and stuck her tongue out at Seamus. He crossed his arms and, finally, shut up, sandy brown hair flopping over his eyes in defiance. They drove for another half an hour, a straightaway now, and then Harriet was turning left into Stanley, an antique town, historical in its own way. Wide gravel side streets crisscrossed on either side of the main road. Everything was brown, the wood buildings, the dirt roads, the mud-splattered cars. How about a bite of mine? Jane wrinkled her nose. He ordered a meatloaf sandwich, and okay, no thanks. What if I give you 2 bites and you buy me banana bread? 2.5 bites and you've got a deal. Jane slid her plate over to his waiting hands. She didn't trust him, of course. That vulture had a mouth the size of a lake. 2 bites to him were like 4 bites to a bear. She was left with a substantial amount despite his greatest efforts to fit 2 bites into one. Harriet grinned at his remaining struggle to choke the bread down, syrup oozing between his lips. He smiled, that jerk, and Harriet and Jane were presented with a lovely view of French toast guts. Au revoir, good soldier. It took 10 minutes for Seamus to buy Jane that banana bread. How that happened, she wasn't sure. He was, most likely, chatting up the poor girl behind the register. When he finally appeared and waltzed out the doors, a chunk of her banana bread was missing, his cheeks puffing out. Harriet did the screeching for her, Seamus laughing maniacally and presenting to the world another wonderful view of the food inside his mouth as she chased him down to the field and towards the festival. The Arts and Crafts Festival was overrun with what looked like the entire population of Stanley. Tables were set up in neat rows, the white tents billowing lightly in the breeze. Jane noticed Harriet glancing at her out of the corner of her eye. She knew why she had been brought here. Her friends, her very 2 best friends, were only trying to help. Within the next 3 months, they would all be going to college, dispersing across America to get an education on understanding life. Jane had no idea she would ever understand anything about life. Seamus and Harriet knew she'd been unhappy for a long time. Unhappy was the wrong word, though. It was more of a sad confusion. Jane wanted a place to be. She didn't get why she couldn't just be and be happy, have a place where she fit in. Jane had never been to Stanley before. Harriet had suggested they go for an arts and crafts festival. She liked the dustiness and the promise of sagebrush-filled adventures, but Jane did not. Jane didn't care for the outdoors, and if Stanley was anything, it was a place for people who enjoyed just that. The outdoors, the environment, the wildness of things. The entirety of Idaho was a place for people who loved fresh air and hotspot recreational areas, and she kind of wanted to leave it as soon as possible. Idaho was supposed to be her home, but it didn't feel like one. Passing the village mark, they took another left to reach the bakery. It was small, intimate, it smelled of freshly made bread. There was a buzz of excitement in the busy atmosphere, tables crowded with people grabbing breakfast before they headed out to explore the lakes, the rivers, or the hiking trails that dotted the surrounding area. They ordered and found a table outside. A faint breeze blew through the spring air, cooling Jane's skin and tangling her mess of long brown curls. Bees hummed as they flew from table to table, bumbling and bumping into things ungracefully. The bakery was nice, at least, and the food good, once it had been placed in front of her. Cinnamon and maple and fresh fruit. Of course, Jane was immediately bombarded. "Your French toast looks so good. Please can I have a bite, please, Jane," Seamus said, with eyes like a whimpering puppy. "I don't know. What will you give me in return?" Jane asked. That was the beginning of chapter 1, the first 3 pages. There are another 47, and if you'd like to read more, I have a few copies with me today that you can come get when this is over. This first chapter was the hardest one for me to write. Getting the dialogue and the initiating incident to a place where I felt good about it was difficult. But in the end, after countless hours of reworking it, I finally got it right, and the work was worth it. I reflected on my personal identity in this story. Writing it put me on a path to discovering personal qualities. It put me on a path to learning more about a passion. It put me on a path to the future, with my home, my identity, and my sense of place following along with me. Those things are part of who I am. and are a part of this story, this journey, my journey. I was able to create something that, hopefully, if any of you end up reading it, will touch me just as reading and writing it has touched me. I'd like to thank my parents for supporting me endlessly, Ridley Pearson for mentoring me and always finding time to meet with me despite his busy schedule, and most of all, the Sage School and all of my teachers for giving me and helping me through this amazing opportunity to learn and grow. Thank you. And I've done that in the past with school assignments, so I wanted to kind of stray away from that and try something new and just kind of go for it and see where it takes me and then go back after I've written at least a page. I found myself writing maybe a few chapters a day. It ranged really. I mean, some of the chapters were longer than others. But yeah, definitely just sitting down and writing, usually at least more than 1 page a day. Yeah. I can't see the middle, but you in the back, yeah.
So did you find that from your experience that your own sense of place changed because you started paying attention to things in a different way as a writer?
Yes, I think my sense of place kind of became a accumulation of my years through the Sage School. I mean, it definitely heightened over this project because I was delving more deeper into my sense of place and looking at, reflecting on my years here and understanding that I'm leaving Idaho for the next 4 years to go to college. And so I was kind of reflecting on my time in Idaho and what it means to me. So definitely throughout the years, it's kind of been prevalent to me, but this project just sort of made that bigger in my mind. Yeah.
Sort of echoing what Julie said, I just want to say too that I think to write about writing in a way that captivates the audience the way that I believe that it did, at least I was very captivated, is an amazing writing feat in itself. And so I am really astonished and amazed, not because I think you're capable, because I don't know you, I'm not a teacher, but I think that was very well done.
After doing this process, if I would go back and read my past writing and kind of reflect on my writing and see how it's changed. I thought about it, but there's something about reading what you wrote in the past, in 8th grade or 9th grade, that is just really embarrassing. So, I mean, I could probably, it'd be interesting to see how I've improved as a writer and as a person. I don't know. I could, but it'd be hard.